The next step for wiring the harness is to remove all the wires that won't be used in the Goblin. This includes things like the ABS and airbags. Some of the large multi-plugs have caps that will get in the way while thinning the harness. Before removing the caps, put a single mark across the cap and plug to mark the orientation of the cap. Gently pry up the plastic retaining clips to remove the caps. Cut the zip tie on the blue BCM connector and then use your knife to pry the cap off as shown. The intercooler water pump we supply for turbo cars requires a circuit that comes on with the key. The pink wire at position B2 on the gray multi-plug is a good wire for the water pump. Trace the pink wire through the harness and cut it near the electronic brake control connector. Pull the wire free from the harness and tie a knot to identify it later. Turbo and supercharged Goblins also require key-on power for the heat exchanger fan. We use one of the pink wires at position D7 on the red BCM multi-plug. Trace one of the wires back to the passenger seat connector. Cut the wire here and tie a knot. Pull the wire free of the harness, but do not cut it out. Now it is time to start removing the connectors and wires that won't be used in the Goblin. First up is the electronic brake control connector. Start by cutting the twisted tan and brown wires near the electronic brake control connector. Leave the wires attached to the ECM connector and move it out of the way. Next, cut the vacuum sensor connector from the brake control connector. Do not throw away any wires or connectors at this time. Instead, store them in a cardboard box in case you make a mistake. Cut the thick ground wire from the brake control connector. Roll the wire up and save it for later. One by one, cut and remove the remaining twisted pairs of wires from the brake control connector. Some wires will go to the wheel speed connectors, which can be removed entirely. Other wires will go to larger connectors. In this case, cut the twisted wires and toss them in your box. Repeat this process until the electronic brake control connector is no longer attached to the main harness. Near the fuse box housing, you will find the windshield wiper connector. This connector and all of its wires can be removed. When you trace the wires, you'll find that 3 go to a white fuse block multi-plug. All 3 of these wires can be cut near that multi-plug. The remaining yellow wire can be cut at the wiper connector and then traced to one of the 2 BCM connectors. Cut the yellow wire near the BCM connector and toss the wire into your box. Close to where you found the wiper connector, you will find another black connector as shown. The only wires we need here are the ambient temperature sensor wires. These wires are green with a white stripe and yellow with a black stripe. Cut the wires and tie them in a knot. The twisted pair of wires are for the collision sensor. You might also have wires for a hood ajar sensor. Cut these wires from the connector, then thin them from the harness. Next up are the door plugs. First, cut both wires of the driver door ajar sensor. The black ground wire will come out later, but go ahead and trace the other wire and cut it near one of the BCM connectors. After that, find the driver door connector and cut the thick light blue wire. Trace the wire to the passenger door plug and cut it out. Roll this wire up and save it for later. One by one, cut and remove the rest of the door connector wires. You'll notice that 2 gray with black stripe wires go to a taped union. The wires at this union will all be removed as shown. One of the gray wires will go to the red BCM multi-plug. The last wire will go to the passenger door connector. Continue to cut, trace, and remove the driver door connector wires. Find the large yellow airbag system connector. All of these wires will need to be removed. 2 of the wires will go to the driver's seat connector. Cut the pink wire first and trace it to the taped union. The union and pink wires will all be removed as shown. The tan wire will lead to the large yellow connector. Cut the wire to remove the driver's seat connector from the harness. Continue cutting the wires of the large yellow connector. You'll find many twisted pairs of wires that lead to small yellow connectors. Cut each pair of twisted wires to remove the connectors. Continue cutting and tracing wires until the large yellow connector is free from the harness. In the same location as the large yellow connector, you will find a small black connector. This is the parking brake switch connector. With ABS removed, this switch will no longer work and should be removed. If your car had the yaw sensor, you can remove the connector and wires from that system. Now it's time to remove the passenger seat connector. Your seat connector might have an extra connector attached to it. Just drop that connector over the edge of the table and work on the seat connector. Cut the wires attaching the seat connector to the main harness and remove those wires. Next, we'll remove the body to dash wires. First up is the antenna wire. This should pull right out of the harness without cutting anything. The body to dash connector is removed next. One by one, cut the wires near the connector, trace them through the harness, and cut them out. We've already removed a few passenger door wires. Work through the remaining wires until the connector is free from the harness. You do not need to thin out the black ground wire. Just cut it from the connector and leave it on the table. Cut the passenger door ajar wires and remove the tan wire. You can leave the black wire for now. As you can see, the harness is looking much thinner and less intimidating already. In part 2, we will finish thinning the harness. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get notified when our new videos go live. If you have any questions, send us an email, give us a call, or join our forum. Thanks for watching.